Learn to listen when it's grown men talking, cause real spit you don't find that often. Learn to listen when it's grown men talking, cause real spit you don't find that often. Every discussion from experience, and hopefully within it delivers some deliverance. It's all facts and opinionated, from the west where that real spit originated. Brothers truly trying to save a soul, provoke thought so we can really designate a goal. We on that grown man scribble, the ball in our court with command on the dribble. This is something that'll help us show, cause it's something that'll help us grow. We see exactly what the people need. Now welcome to the show, Spitting Policies. Welcome to the show, Spitting Policies. Welcome to the show, Spitting Policies. Learn to listen when it's grown men talking, cause real spit you don't find that often. Learn to listen when it's grown men talking, cause real spit you don't find that often. Spitting Policies.
Yeah, here we go. One more again. Spitting Policies. Tonight, we got a good one for you. We rise on the shoulders of our ancestors. And as you guys see, we have two gentlemen here as our guests. But I just want to pay some homage to, we lost this week, two amazing actresses in the game. We all know, we call her Relona. And then also Esther Scott. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with Esther Scott. She also played in Boys in the Hood. She was the one that was running up the stairs after Cuba Gooding Jr. Character, if you guys remember that. But she also did Nate Parker, The Birth of a Nation. So we just want to pay those two respect and homage of, you know, what they have brought to the screens and the TV right in your living room. So before we jump into that, I just wanted to do that.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like, I don't know if you ever know, but there's like an African tradition to pour out libations for your ancestors, and we definitely pour out those libations for those ancestors, the newly ancestors, into to that realm. But it almost like you know how we do in the hood, pour out a little liquor for the homies.
Ain't got no liquor,
you see how that transition, you know what I mean, from Africa to here. We never, some of the traditions we never lost.
Right.
So I would just really honor and respect to those that paved the way and were trailblazers for us as a people.
Right.
Not just them as individuals, for us as a people. So we just want to honor and respect them.
Well, you know, it's by nature. Yes. Whether they mess up or whether they doing great, we own them.
Yes.
You know, they're a part of us.
Yes.
You know.
So, how was your week, Trev? We're going to start it out like we normally start it out. How was your week, bro?
I was good, man. I'm good. Trev was running late. He'll be here.
Did I say Trev?
Yeah, he said Trev.
Oh,
he said Trev. I was like,
Cam.
what? I look shorter over here? I know I normally sit over there, so now I done took his seat, so now I done shrunk. Yeah. You know, it's cool, though. It's cool. We all look alike. That's what they say. So, but no, man, great week. I can't complain, P. You know, God is good.
Yes.
About you?
My week was a little challenging, brother. But I made it halfway through it because this is hump day, so I'm halfway there.
Definitely.
Got the rest of it to go. We're going to see how that goes.
Right.
But I'm expecting great things.
Yes, sir.
I am expecting great things.
Definitely.
I want to introduce these two gentlemen that are sitting here amongst us right now. So I'm going to start with the gentleman I know best. I'm going to knock out the easiest first, right? And then you can do him because we.
Give me the.
Then you can do Mr. Moses. But sitting right here, this gentleman, I just call him Chooks. He's a master sculptor, painter, artist, and he's passionate about his work. And you can see some of his work right here in the studio with us. Check it out. And this gentleman right here is I have the liberty of going to his home, interviewing him at his home, at his studio, at his house, and I gotta say, even the work moves you. I know it's Chooks' work because it moves you emotionally, and this brother, when he talks, he moves you emotionally too. So his emotions are input into the pieces that he does. And can I tell him what this show, what this piece was from, the Identity Theft?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
So this piece is from a show that I had the privilege, me and my business partner have the privilege of showing at our art gallery. It was called Identity Theft. Now, if you didn't walk into that show, you wouldn't even understand what I'm talking about. But we got a range of a lot of emotions from people walking into the royal court. So just imagine these life-like bust statues looking at you and the emotions that you feel from that. Some people couldn't handle it and they had to leave. And then right as the apex of this valley of kings and queens, you had these two Benin statues that were king and a queen, and it had a mirror in them. So you could see yourself as a king or a queen. I thought that was so phenomenal.
Yeah.
Very creative. I don't want to say this guy has a MFA, but it's way beyond that. I mean, in the art world, this guy is renowned as one of the best sculptors here in Los Angeles and across the world. And I present to you, I'm just going to call him Chooks.
That's good enough. Yeah.
Yes,
That'll
give it up
do.
for Chooks, everybody.
Yes,
Give it
sir.
up for Chooks.
Thank you for blessing us, Chooks.
Oh,
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank
Thank
you
you.
for
Thank
coming
you.
in and blessing us with your artwork. And do you want to? I know I probably missed something. So what did I miss?
No, you did an excellent job of describing who I am.
Okay.
I mean, and Chooks is fine. I mean, that's my indigenous name. People think, hey, man, when you come up with that name, it sounds cool. And I tell them that's my indigenous name. I trace my name to Nigeria. And the name Chooks is many different pronunciations and dialects of the name. It's Chukua, Chukura, Chukaru. I mean, it just goes on, but it's all basically centered around the name Chooks, which means Most High, Man of God. It's the Uru bird that flies around and sees everything. And I was told this by a brother from Senegal back in 1984 when I was first starting to show my work seriously. I noticed this brother showing interest in my work, and he came up and he wanted to know who is Chooks, and he says, hey, do you know what your name means? And I said, no. And I only use my last name. My first name is Michael, but I only use my last name. And I don't know why I chose to do that, but I did. And he told me that my name was Nigerian. And from that point on, it gave me a sense of power that I've never released, because I found out that I was no longer considered enslaved. That I was able, even though I was born here in America, I found out that we were somehow able to keep our indigenous name, and it didn't come from a enslaved master. So that gave me a great power.
Yeah. Man, Chooks is wonderful. Now, do you want to introduce Mr. Moses?
I'm going to try.
I'm
I'm
no, we don't try over here,
You
bro.
know.
You either do or you don't.
Well, I'm sure he gonna help me out if I mess up, because actually Trev was supposed to be here, and he was supposed to do this part.
Okay.
You know, but
Yeah.
it
But
ain't no thing. We're a team.
He has shortcomings.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, short people have shortcomings, so that's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah,
you know,
those shortcomings.
we understand.
But it's okay.
It's
You're gonna
it's
do a great
definitely
job.
all right.
You're gonna
But
do a great
I would
job.
love to introduce this man, this gentleman.
And before you do,
Yes, sir.
I'll quote Miles Davis. Just hopefully this will let you off the hook. Miles Davis once said, don't worry about mistakes. There
Mm-hmm.
aren't any.
There you go. See, that's what I'm saying.
Right on.
That's exactly what I'm saying, because this right here, we're bridging the gap. You
Yes.
know, for as the years that's in. Oh, well, we getting a call already.
Somebody want to call?
Well, come on in.
What? Come
Come
on
on
in.
in.
All right, caller, tell us your name and
Is
where
that
you calling
Trevor?
from, and question or comment, real quick.
I think this show is awesome. You guys
Trevor.
have a wealth of information and knowledge.
I
But
knew it was
I'm
gonna be
listening
him.
to, like, that guy Trevor Graham. It's Trevor Graham.
He's a troublemaker.
Going to be there.
He's a
I'm
troublemaker.
Trevor. This is Trevor, man.
We know who
I
you
heard
are. We already
you
knew.
watching this.
Man, we already knew you was gonna call in. But since you called in,
Are you
I'm
gonna
gonna give
introduce
you
Mr.
the
Moses?
honors.
That's what you called in
yeah,
for?
that's what he called in for.
Well,
Go
do your
ahead.
job, bro. Do your job.
The short version.
Wait a minute. You want me to do? What do you mean do my job?
That's your job, bro.
Are you going to introduce Mr.
Man,
Moses?
look.
You're holding up the line,
we
brother.
can't hang up. You
Okay,
know,
let me do that. I apologize. I apologize.
you know,
I apologize.
Click.
Ladies and gentlemen, one of the guests on our show tonight, an honorable man, a noble man, a man that has been one of my mentors growing up and a major influence in my life, as well as a person of good stature, a man that has seen me go through some sweet and sours in my life. Ladies and gentlemen, a person that is also well learned, or at least significantly more learned than a lot of us in the times and lives of James Baldwin. Let me introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Moses.
Welcome,
Well, thank you.
welcome, Mr.
Thank
Moses.
you.
I could have did a
Now,
better job.
now get off the
Trevor.
line, bro.
Yeah,
off
Trevor,
the line.
Trevor, you read that just like I wrote it. Very good.
See, that's why I love you, Mr. Moses. So I'm going to go back to listening.
I love you too, my brother.
So I'll see you guys shortly.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, your height. Shortly.
That's not cool, Kevin. Not cool. It's black people.
Bye.
Hey, you know what?
Bye, Trevor.
Communicate. Y'all giving the man
Bye,
what
Trevor.
they
Can you
want.
hang
We
him
can't
up?
have
Can you
division amongst
hang him up?
ourselves. We can't have division.
Hang him up.
You the Bobby Brown of the group. You the Bobby Brown.
Can you
of the
hang him up? Hang him up, Mr. Moses.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
What would you like to add to that? I know he missed something. He's incompetent sometimes.
No, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Oh,
It
okay,
wasn't
right.
broke. I'm
All right.
afraid if I added something to it that the ratings would go down. So we'll. No, I'm good to go. I've just known Trevor for forever. His parents live on this, and he at one time did live on the street where I live, right down the street, and he's just been just a bundle of energy and focus ever since that I've known him. He's always been the type of person to me that knew more than he would let himself know. And one day he caught up with himself.
Gotcha.
And instead of this young kid standing out there in the driveway playing with my sons or talking to my sons, there was this young man standing out there. And I think this is kind of a culmination, his participation in this wonderful venture here that you guys have. Is rightly so. He's on time. He's not an accident.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I'm really, really glad to be a part of his environment and be
Yes.
a part of mine.
Some of us would beg to differ, Mr. Moses. That he was an accident, you know, or oops. you
Well,
know.
at
But that's-
least a happy accident. Anyway.
right.
So, like Trevor was saying, you
Yeah.
were a friend of. We're gonna get, and the title of the show is called "We Rise."
Nice.
And what's the second?
On the shoulder of our ancestors.
On the shoulders of our ancestors.
Still on.
So this is the only way we can rise to higher heights.
Yeah.
And that is to stand on the shoulders of our ancestors.
Yeah.
And he mentioned one of our ancestors that you were great friends with, and that's Mr. James Baldwin.
Oh, absolutely.
One of the literary giants of not my time, but before my time, but
Indeed.
definitely one of the literary giants of our time. So, not just a giant in literature,
No.
but an activist.
Yeah. And
Can you speak to his part as you know him,
yeah.
as being an activist and being for the people?
Yeah, the activist part of him, and you could always see this in his personality and in his reluctance. He he didn't volunteer to be an activist. Uh, the activist part of him only came as a result of the truth of his writings. His whole effort was simply to be a writer. Um, and
Sorry to interrupt.
that's
As
okay.
a phone call.
Hold that.
Come join us.
Do you have a question or comment for Mr. Moses, who's speaking so eloquently about James Baldwin right now?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. You're doing so well, but you know what? I was just trying to find the podcast. How do I find it?
It's on the after party, or you could go to the Spitting Policies page, Facebook page. That's Spitting Policies, SPITTNPOLLASEEDZ. Or you can find it on our. We're streaming live right now on our Facebook page.
That's right. I'm gonna hit you back. You know, this is Fred Wright. Trevor Graham know who I am.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
You definitely hit us back.
All right. Watch it and call back in when you have a question or comment. Okay?
Oh, I will definitely.
All right. Thank you. Continue, Mr.
Sure.
Moses.
Well, Jimmy always said that.
Now you called him Jimmy. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
James,
we
Jimmy.
were. Yeah.
Okay.
He's the godfather of my children.
Okay.
The love of my wife's life, and next to my dad, my best friend. He was
Gotcha.
my best friend, and
Gotcha.
so we did have that familiarity about us. In fact, when he would come to town, to the neighborhood to which Trevor lived down the street, I'm the only person that he would let cut his hair. I used to cut his hair when he come to town.
Wow.
He did, and Trevor ended up being the barber and doing one of his many skills. But I always did that when he came to town. But in terms of his activism, one of the things that he defined so brilliantly was that he was a poet. He was a writer. He was not the activist. He always said, particularly when he talked about him and Malcolm, was that he was the poet of the revolution and Malcolm was the warrior of the revolution. And the roles of the poet is much different from the role of the warrior. You know, the poet has to bear witness to what he sees, literally, in literary form or sculpture form, like this brilliant gentleman here. And that's what his job, that's what his role is. But the more and more that he did it, and the clearer and clearer he became, and the more books that he wrote, the more that he was kind of seduced and enticed and even blackmailed into coming out into the activism role, which indeed he always felt awkward about doing it. He just thought that he was a voice, not really the one that carried the burden of really making the movement happen. So it was just a great honor for me. I met him back in 1962, and we became steadfast friends from that moment. It was at a party in Hollywood. I was in the military, actually, at the time. And our host lived across the street from the Montecito Hotel on Franklin Avenue here in Hollywood. And she would always go over. Virginia Capers, a wonderful actress. She would always go over and see who on the billboard who was in town. And James Baldwin was in town that week, and Burgess Meredith and Brando and a few other people. So she would send notes up the door and say, I'm having a big party at my house. I'm having black-eyed peas and greens and grits and da 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 da.
The food get them every time.
Well, that's exactly. And he came over, and we just struck up a relationship and a rapport, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's definitely dope.
Yeah, tremendous
definitely
human being.
tremendous.
Other than my dad, who was the greatest human being I ever met, James Baldwin was second to none. And I had the privilege. He came to the university. I'm from Ohio, Dayton, Ohio. And I got him to come to the university, him and Dick Gregory, to come to the University of Dayton one year.
Wow, them two was hanging out
Oh,
together. Dick Gregory.
it was a great.
Yeah, we
James
name
Baldwin.
dropping on this show.
Yeah,
we do that.
Yeah. And,
I love the
great
stories.
names, though.
I love the
Yeah,
stories.
Yeah.
man, we can sit here.
Because
and listen.
I think there's a missing link between the artists of today, and I'm gonna say artists, and that's with a broad brush.
Sure.
Well, you act, right?
I do.
And there's a the athletes. We talked about athletes and the artists and everything. There's no more activists really in that lane. You know, you don't see that, but not the big ones like James Baldwin was a icon. You don't
Yeah.
see that nowadays in today's literature or today's art. You don't in acting. You don't see those activists really that are for the people. And I'm just wondering why that is, or what do you see?
Well,
why that is?
they are there,
Uh-huh.
but they're like in a crucible. They're being molded now.
Gotcha.
Nobody heard of James Baldwin when James Baldwin was 15, 16, 17, 18, 19,
Yeah.
20, 21. Either he had to be confronted with himself and make a decision about which way am I going to go? What am I?
Yeah.
And that's what's happening to the people, the unnamed people that you're suggesting
Yeah.
that are out there now. Most of the people who now who label themselves as artists are media creations. And there's a total difference.
Wow.
I agree.
There's a total difference between being an artist, which means you're bearing witness to a truth that most people don't want to face. You know, as opposed to being popular and a star.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so
there's a
they're
difference.
coming, but they will. These artists, as my friend name dropping again, Maya Angelou would say, and still we rise. We will, but they will rise when the situation produces the artist.
Gotcha.
It doesn't happen the other way around. The artist
Gotcha.
doesn't produce the situation,
well,
produces the artist.
So
We've been
Chooks,
looking at it wrong.
Chooks, you're an artist, and I consider Chooks and one of the dopest artists that touched ceramic clay, low flyer clay, whatever, our brush. But can you speak to, like, is it something that's innate in you already, or is it like Mr. Moses is saying, it's something that you're in this crucible and you have to be molded like you do so often into this activist and artist?
First, let me say this, Mr. Moses.
Yeah.
Your energy is incredible. I'm feeding off it.
Oh, great!
I am. I mean, it's almost like what I'm thinking, you're saying it, and I mean that.
Yeah. Well, because we're brothers in the art. We've paid for the price of the ticket.
And so many of us have forgotten that, or we're forgetting it. We're losing that content. I mean, we're looking at just the, oh, look at me, the stardom,
Yeah.
and we're not really doing the groundwork.
Yeah, it's a distraction, actually.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
and it's a purposeful distraction.
Yeah, and useful. Until one day when you have to face yourself and there's not
Yeah,
a reflection back
right.
in the mirror.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And how do you deal with yourself then?
Yeah. As Bessie Smith said, you follow the deal on down.
Well, listen, Kanoon, you know, I have been persecuted a lot for my standings as an artist. But let me just say this. When you are given a gift and you realize that gift, you have to see it through. If you variate from it, if you are deceptive and deceitful and you don't use it the right way, just as soon as you get it, it can be snatched away from you. If you let someone play you, you're just a pimp. You're just a prostitute. And I refused to let that happen to me. I refused. And I have suffered tremendously because of it. Because I am not afraid to speak my voice. Because I do have this gift. And I believe wholeheartedly in myself. And that has not been a self-centered thing. it is because of the people that I've been involved with, starting with my parents, the groundwork, and understanding that. And I realized that what the gift I have is, you asked me a question, where did it come from? I honestly believe that it came from my ancestors, the ones that did not get the chance to create such as I do, and that had the ability to create such as I do. But because of whatever circumstances that the world was in at that time, they lost that energy. But I think the world, the universe is a vacuum, so energy never goes away. It just goes to the next person that's receptive. And I believe somehow I was that person. I got that energy. That's why I can never take credit for what I do, because it just comes from the universe.
If I may add to that, you being a little modest, one of the things that artists have that the general populace do not have is no choice. He doesn't have a choice.
Shit.
I don't have a choice. If I had a choice, I would take it. And I've tried taking choices, but you always come back. You always come back to your center and to the suffering out of which grows your ability to be an artist.
Wow.
You know, Shakespeare said, out of this meadow danger, we pluck this flower safety. That's how it happens. That's how it happens.
Wow.
And when you see people say, well, I'm going to school to study being art, it doesn't happen like that. Baldwin always said, you don't tell life, life tells you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, people, y'all see what's going on here? We got knowledge in the building. So y'all call in if you have questions for Mr. Moses, if you have questions for Chooks, you call in to 213-270-1969. We rising tonight because of our ancestors and because of these gentlemen right here that are dropping these jewels. It was like, I always like the verse in the Bible, don't cast your pearls to swine, right?
Yeah.
They casting pearls. Don't be the poke. So, yeah. So y'all could call in and join this conversation. Yes, we rise.
Wow. This is heavy. This is deep. You know, I could sit here and listen to you all night. You know, man, I'm glad you brothers graced us tonight. You know.
Well, that's great. It's you have to get what you have in out. You know, I want to use up every breath that's still in me, that's before me. I don't want to leave anything or take anything with me.
Yes.
You know, so the truth, as it were, which is hard to bear.
Yeah.
Which is hard for all of us to bear. We cannot stand it, actually, to be honest with you, which is why we create, like when I was talking about the media creation, and we create all these other things. If I can get 5 people in the room to agree that that wall is white, then I will buy into it, even though I know that it's black.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because we think there is safety in numbers, and there is not safety in numbers.
Yeah.
All journeys are individual and private, and that's what our terror is. That's why we go for popularity, or the whatever it is would distract us from facing ourselves.
Right.
You know.
Wow.
But we have to finally face ourselves.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. It is said that everything that we faced can't be changed, but nothing can be changed if it's not faced.
Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
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 Love that.
This is recorded, so I'm gonna go back.
Yes.
and
Take notes. Y'all can take notes too out there. Yeah,
Man.
they dropping some jewels.
Man.
Definitely take some notes.
Yeah.
Chooks, tell us about this Now, this was in one of the shows. This was in Identity Theft. Can you tell us about this magnificent sculpture behind us? Just give us the backstory on it.
Well, this piece is titled Subliminal Man. And let me just give you a little quick synopsis of the meaning of identity theft. Actually, this individual piece is on the cover of my book titled Identity Theft. And this is probably the most spiritual work that I've ever created. It happened that I started creating this work about 4 years ago when President Obama was in the tail end of the height of his presidency. And through some odd, strange reason in the world, in America, all of a sudden, all of these black young youths were being taken out by our so-called protect and serve police department and vigilante individuals who were killing our youth and being let off scot-free. And you know who I'm talking about. Well, one particular day, I stay in my studio quite a bit creating, but my wife and I were driving down the street in Pasadena, where I live. And I live in Altadena. But actually, we were driving down the street, and I looked up. It was a rainy day, and I seen this group of young kids. And I asked my wife, I said, "Hey, babe, what's going on here?" And she says, "That's Black Lives Matter." And they had just 15 cops or 5 cops, something like that, had just shot a young black male like 25 times or something like that for wielding a knife at him. Said he was a threat. And this happened in Pasadena. And so they were protesting that. So the next night I went home and I thought about it. I said, what am I doing as an artist? And then all of a sudden this imagery started hitting me. It just started hitting me. I started getting this imagery from the universe. And so I went out and I created. This wasn't the first piece, but this is one of probably the first 5 pieces in the identity theft work. There's 50 pieces in that show now. And this piece is titled Subliminal Man. Now what Subliminal Man stands for is, you look at this piece and you see this brother with his head bowed down, and you look, he's dejected, he's tied up. He's been told that he's nothing, he's been given nothing. And like you said, if you tell me that this black wall is white and you can get enough people to buy into that, they're going to believe that wall is white. Well, this is what Subliminal Man stands for. But if you take a close look at this piece and you study it, you see these straps around here and you say, oh yeah, he's bonded, he can never get out. But these straps are just laid over his body. They're just laid there. They're not tied to his body. If you look, I'm going to turn it around. If I turn this piece around, you see he's tied in the back. Or the straps are they're not tied, they're not binding him. So all he has to do when his hands are strapped is get rid of that subliminal message, those lies that they've told you about who you are, and pull your hands away. That's all he has to do. But the subliminal message has become so powerful, you think you're tied down to it, and you're really not. Yeah. And that's what we have to get over. Yeah. We have to stop letting people subliminalize ourselves. Lie to us, tell us who we are. That's why my book is entitled Identity Theft, because they have taken our identity away from us and changed it and given us another identity, the slave identity. And we do not come from slavery. Slavery is only 1/5 of the 250,000 years of the African civilization. That's minute. And when they teach us about ourselves, they only teach us about the enslaved history. They never teach us about what we were before enslavement. And that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Oh, I know y'all. If y'all have questions for these scholars,
I think they stuck too, man.
213
captivating
270-1969. Man, it is an honor to be amongst these great men. It's definitely an honor to be here. I sit chills through my veins as I sit here and listen to you all talk about your views on where we are and where we're going. But I do have to ask the question because it seems that we are repeating some of the same things we've repeated before. The marching, the whatever, all of this. What is one thing that you might see that we can do, or the youth can do, to not repeat some of the same things and get more of a actionary kind of thing, and where we can progress even further than where we are right now?
T.S. Eliot. I'm extracting this from a poem that he had called The Four Quartets. He said, "We will never cease from our explorations. And at the end of all of our explorings will be to arrive back where we started. And we will know that place for the very first time." That is human nature. We cannot, other than through inspiration from this fabulous work here, or through the work of somebody like Denzel or various other people who inspire us, Jesus. You cannot force people, young people, to know something they don't know. I might sound like I'm bright and I'm wise and I've got it all together, but whoever said ignorance is bliss was telling the truth. At the time that I was forging through and arriving at this place, I didn't know anything either, and I wouldn't listen to anybody either. It just so happened, once I realized that I was so narrow and limited in my options, I didn't have a choice but to be David Moses. This is who I am, unless I want to be a total liar about my life. And so therefore, any influence that I've had over kids, as you talked about telling kids, I would not tell them to do anything except face the truth of their life as they go through it. Even if that truth is a lie, because at some point it will teach them a lesson and they will cling to the truth eventually. You see, so it is in our nature we keep going back over it and over it and over it and over it, but yet we, as Maya says, and still I rise, we spiral. We're not in the same place. Okay. And a lot of our children are lost. A lot of our children, we talk about these binds and ties on this sculpture here. A lot of people want to be bound and tied.
Do you think that's because it's the easy way out? It's easier to be just bound.
Well, because a lot of it takes courage, and until we have the courage to break free, facing our fears, we are bound. We're bound by ignorance, by education, by male images, by female images, by love, by religion.
We do have a caller.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Come on in. Join us.
Please tell us your name, question, or comment.
Hello?
My name is Ira Watson.
Oh, okay.
Repeat that, sir.
I want to... I'm sorry, say it again?
Your name?
Ira Watson.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing as I'm watching the show and I'm listening to everybody speak here. One thing that I see is this thing that's going on with the youth as we're speaking on them is that let me take this one step back. When I was a child, the first time I saw Roots going to an alternative school Kev know you went to the
Oh, what's up, boy?
What's going on, my man?
What's happening?
It gave me this. It gave me this feeling, almost like a little bit of rage and anger.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, the youth takes what our ancestors went through for granted.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the suffering that our ancestors went through, and sometimes even what you see on the radio, what you see on the television, what you see in the internet, what you see on Facebook, it's almost degrading. One thing I try to do with my children, and even the ones that are around me, I like what the brother said about not trying to force feed them or force them into something, but make them aware of where we've been. Because there's choices that we can make. There's choices that they can make to not continue to send them down the wrong path.
Right.
I mean, everything starts in the home, from the home in the community. It's like we all have to really reach out and help one another. I mean, this platform that you guys are using is wonderful. This is the first time I saw the show.
Okay. I'm glad
to see some black men up here speaking positive about how we can redirect where we're headed, making us awake and aware. That sculpture in the back is powerful.
Amen.
Because it speaks volumes as to what the youth are dealing with today.
Right.
They're fighting everything from religion to anything. They don't believe anything other than whatever can gratify the flesh.
Absolutely. And man, I just, man, thank you for tuning in, brother. This is one of my boys I went to school with many years ago. Glad to hear your voice, my brother. But you're right. And that's an everyday fight and struggle. And this is one reason why we put this together, to bring what you see before you now, to try to bridge those gaps. And everybody know I'm a strong advocate for young people. This is, that's what I do daily, because I was once one of them didn't want to hear it, or hard-head youngsters. And it took some time to get to where I am now. But man, yeah, you absolutely, man. But the thing is, we got to continue to do exactly what we're doing, because I always say we can't wait on somebody to come save us. We got to do that.
No.
We have to do it.
Right.
We got to come together. Yeah. So, man, I appreciate your call, brother.
Yeah, like I said, I saw somebody say, hey, it was live video show, and I'm sitting here in Maryland.
Right.
And believe me, I'm all over the East Coast and the South down there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just seeing a whole lot.
Right.
Man, we got to do better.
Yeah.
And we will do better.
Right.
We will do better. This is the start of that doing better.
Yeah.
Thank you for calling, brother.
Keep tuning in every Wednesday, bro. I know y'all are a few hours ahead of us, and it's during the week. But you can also catch us on Spitting Policy if you can't watch us live. So this is what we doing, bro.
Like I said, man, something positive. I don't care what time of the hour it is. If it's something even I can learn from, the gentleman said very easily, how although he may plant that seed and it may not take right away with this youth, eventually it does come back around, and eventually, whatever you heard before, whatever seed was planted, eventually does rise to surface. I mean, I can remember as a child, a lot of things my mother would say to me, and I'm like, man, I ain't trying to hear that. I ain't trying to hear that. And then, of course, as I begin to get a little bit older, I can see all those things that she was telling me unfolding right before my face.
Right.
Yeah, that's like a lot of us. But brother, I appreciate you calling. We're gonna let these brothers spit some more
Got a few,
more knowledge
Before
before
we,
we have to get out of here. Definitely keep watching us. Stay plugged in, bro.
Yeah.
And we
I appreciate y'all.
we will not let you down. Put it like that.
You got it, man.
Now,
All right, brother.
Thank you.
Chooks, as an artist, I know from interviewing you before, you talk about being an artist and what it takes to be an artist. Well, I don't know how to put this, but we have a certain concept of what artist is today. And it's a lot of contemporary art. It's a lot of what I call fluff. It doesn't have any substance to it. How do you remain in the lane that you are in and not fall prey to just the fluff and the non-substance art?
Once again, I truly believe you have to realize that you have been given a gift, and it takes a long time for some individuals to understand that, because so much of what we have has been taken for granted. And I think once you make the mistakes and you realize from those mistakes, like you said, Miles Davis says in art, there's no mistakes. I'm a firm believer of that. For me, art, academically, I wasn't the greatest student, but I thought I was always smarter than everyone else. I believe that in myself. I just said my teachers just didn't see that part of me. My mother and father did, my brothers did, my siblings, and that was enough for me. And that gave me the belief I had in myself. Somewhere in life, you have to find that belief in yourself, and you have to gravitate to it, and you cannot let go. And it will take you on a ride that you will not believe. You will go through some hardships that you won't believe. If you let go, you'll never see the other side of the beautiful mountain. So you have to hold on to it. Stay true to it. I have given up so much to be in the position that I am, but now I'm able to give back tenfold of what I've given up. And so what I felt that society says that you need, one thing I know about artists is that I know that we are a threat, because first of all, we can find the most minute substance and create something beautiful out of it. Like this particular piece came out of a 25-pound bag of clay that you just dig out of the earth. That's so simple. But then you make something of it, and then you make a life of it. So therefore, you don't really need what society tells you that you need in order to have some type of substance. You don't need all that fluff that you say. You just need your true reality and who you are. And it took me a long time to realize that. But once again, I just never gave up. I just don't believe failure. When the Apollo mission said failure is not an option, that's my motto. Failure is not an option.
Yeah. Well, you definitely haven't failed.
Right.
This gentleman, the pieces that he create, it will make some people cry. I've had people that just couldn't even take it, and they had to leave the venue because of the pieces spoke so much to them. And we never know what these pieces are speaking to us. And that's the thing I think that we lose a lot, especially now. Our symbolisms in our culture is somewhat lost. We got the
Well, that's our show for the night.
we got the baby chair for
The high chair.
Go pull up the high chair. There's Trevor. So just to fill you in, Trevor. You've been listening?
Good.
Oh, okay. All right. So we welcome our audience to call in too, because it's not too many times you get two great minds like this before you and you can ask them a question. I mean, I wish I had this on the daily. You know? Do you want to say something? Do you have? Cause since you are late.
Real late.
Come at the end of the shirt.
Jerry, he just want to hear the word. He coming to church just want to hear the word.
Well, one of the things that is encouraging to me is that we all are a part of, and we are writing history now. And for us, our generation that just maybe a slight younger than you guys, at this point, I realize that we're creating some history. But even though many of our listeners none of our listeners have passed if they're listening, but we are all writing our history right now. But we have the opportunity to, let's just say, speak into our ancestors currently and ask our ancestors questions. I would encourage people to call in and ask or find out some of the things that you guys have gone through directly or indirectly and pass down some information down to us, because you guys hold a wealth of knowledge.
Hold that. We got a caller. Join us.
Thank you, caller, for calling.
Hello, everyone. This is Aisha.
Hey, Aisha.
How you doing? I am really enjoying the show tonight. And
Awesome.
There was just one thing I wanted to add. Well, not add, but touch on. When the gentleman was speaking about his piece and how the ropes are tied around it, but not really tied. So it's calm down, Aisha. That you have a chance to be free. It made me think of this thing that my pastor always says. He always talks about like there's a monkey in the cage, and they put a banana right outside of the cage, and the monkey thinks he can't get the banana because of the cage, but really, if he just I'm saying it wrong. I'm sorry.
But we know what you.
I know
We know what you
the-
mean.
all right.
We got you.
You know? Okay,
Yeah, we
okay.
got you.
But really powerful evening, gentlemen, and
Yes.
I appreciate what you're doing,
Thank you.
and I thank you. I thank you all. Keep doing it.
You
Thank
keep
you.
going.
Thank you for recognizing the world.
Yes.
We appreciate you.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
But
Since we're running low on time, don't try to get all these words in now.
no, I'm not, brother.
Right,
Brother.
You should have been speaking while you on your way over here.
I didn't want to hold up the line and be selfish.
No. I'm talking about to yourself.
I
Not calling in.
well, as the brothers were talking, as our guests were talking, it made me entertain the thought of a lot of other questions. You had said some things that almost kind of quoted James Baldwin when you were talking about ignorance and such.
Yeah.
One of the things that got me that James Baldwin had said also was the reason why people hold on to hatred so much is that when they let that go, they're going to have to deal with pain.
And love also.
Right. And
Yeah.
when I thought about that, it's like you start to get comfortable in hating. And what I realized
That's right.
from my perspective was a lot of us in America that are African American, we have a tendency to see all of America and love all of America, and it's you and us. But other nationalities, for some reason, and I believe it's a narcissistic mentality, is that it's us versus you. When I was younger, I used to believe. No, I just used to wonder. How is it that all of you hate us? And when you had mentioned Roots earlier, I was like, man, what is it? Why do you hate? What did I do to you to make you hate me so much? And hence, that's when the narcissistic mentality came in. Like, wait a minute, a narcissist will hurt you and then blame you for what for hurting. So that alone kind of got me. Like,
We have one in the White House now.
Man,
I believe it, and along with narcissism comes sociopathic behavior as well.
Oh, indeed.
So, I don't know, maybe. No, brother, I was just appreciating them. Go ahead, Brother Canoe.
This is what we would like to do with the last 5 minutes. Can you give us a minute of closing remarks? And then give us a minute of closing remarks.
Sure. Just to dovetail off of what Trevor was saying regarding our instincts to avoid the pain, we have to remember this, and you have to go through this, that the pain that signals a toothache is also the pain that saves your life. So it's worth facing. If you don't know you got it, you're in trouble. But if you can face the fact that you got it, you can get through it, and you will be so much more than avoiding some kind of ghost, some kind of imaginary pain that exists. There's so much more to us than being a black man, a black woman, that we never get to in this life cycle, because we buy into what people say that we are and what we expect ourselves to be. Just face yourself for a minute there and come to a real truth. The real truth. Indeed it is, but we got a lifetime. There's nothing else to do.
I keep thinking about what the caller said about what do we say to the kids, the younger generation, about learning about their history. Let me quickly say this. I know schools are trying to take our history out of context and teach us a false history of who we really are. We have to fight that. My wife is a librarian. Go to the library. Youngsters out there, I would say to you, please stop using your cell phones frivolously. Start using them to gain information. There is just this information is right at your fingertips. It may not be all of the truth, but if you put enough of it together, you can start finding about your history. But you must read. That is the key factor in life, is to be literate, to read. Understand your history. And once you start understanding that part of your history and other cultures' history, you will get over the racism and hatred and see that at some point in time, we all are going to have to work together. Yeah. Because if we do not work together as a civilization, we will fall apart. And we must understand that. So use this incredible technology that we have to teach each other. If your schools won't teach you, start teaching yourself. Amen. Calling your friends up and say, hey, look, I learned this about myself. Oh, I learned this about so-and-so and so-and-so other culture. Start sharing that information. That's what it's about. It's at our fingertips. Don't get disillusioned or deluded by all this nonsense that they throw out there to you that you think you have to have. Because once you get older, you're going to realize that it was a waste of your time. Start using your time wisely.
James Baldwin said something. I'm paraphrasing now. He says something to that effect when he says, when one becomes conscious, he's almost constantly in rage.
Absolutely. Black man.
And if you understand who you are,
in a state of rage,
you would have to understand what has the evil genius that has been done to us as a culture. I didn't think I had the last word, brother. You're talking.
Go ahead. Oh, this make our 10th show.
Wow.
So with that, we want to crack this open. Now, it haven't been our 10th show with the after party, but we gonna bring another one when it get 10 with y'all. So
and I just want want to make a quick announcement too. If you want to hear more of Jukes, he will be at the Creative House Saturday. He's in a show called Mbutu, and Mbutu is a South African. Man, you got this, man.
The Zulu.
Zulu. It's Zulu. It's Zulu, and it means I am because we are. I cannot use the mic after him. Wow. Anyway.
Trey, was you in the car by yourself on
and it's this Saturday from 2 to 5, 2 to 6. It's in Inglewood, downtown Inglewood, and we'll post everything on the site. Just come out. You want to hear some more knowledgeable words, and as we pop the bottle and end this show. And we want to thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for being this part of this community with us. And let's continue it and let's let it grow. If you have any questions or comments, you can also email us at spittingpolicies@gmail.com. Wow, it didn't even.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to be a pro at this.
Yeah.
See? Ain't nobody ducking. Everybody still got their eyes.
We don't want to leave y'all in this sipping stage, but thank you for listening. Thank you for riding with us for 10 shows.
Yes.
And we want 100,000 more, right? Yes, sir. All right.
That's the
Thank
go.
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Learn to listen when it's grown men talking, cause real spit you don't find that often. Learn to listen when it's grown men talking, cause real spit you don't find that often. Every discussion from experience, and hopefully within it delivers some deliverance. It's all facts and opinionated, from the West where that real spit originated. Brothers truly trying to save a soul, provoke thought so we can really designate a goal. We on that grown man scribble, the ball in our court with command on the dribble. This is something that'll help us show, cause it's something that'll help us grow. We see exactly what the people need. Now welcome to the show, Spitting Policies. Welcome to the show, Spitting Policies. Welcome to the show, Spitting Policies. Learn to listen when it's grown men talking, cause real spit you don't find that often. Learn to listen when it's grown men talking, cause real spit you don't find that often. Spitting Policies.
Women Who Jam is brought to you by NABFEM, the National Association of Black Female Executives.